All right, we're back. We are diving straight into the guts of Koetting's manual today. We're looking at the mechanics of the architect, how a practitioner actually builds the stage for a spirit to stand on.
And it is intense. I've been reading the lead up to this section, and he's already being so provocative. He's basically calling out anyone who thinks ritual is just about superstitions or scaring entities with divine authority.
He's definitely throwing shade at the old school grimoire crowd. He's saying, look, if you just want to burn incense, use a piece of wood, don't pretend it's high magic.
He's dismissing the whole idea of subduing a spirit through fear. He's saying the entity's job is to perform, and your job is to provide the platform. It's a very modern, almost corporate way of looking at a demon.
But look how he transitions into the actual work. He says you have to return to the temple and consecrate everything. And he makes this specific claim, and I want to flag this, that consecrating tools during a specific ritual is way more effective than doing it in some random, aimless ceremony earlier.
Right. He's saying the energy needs to be tied to the intent. It's about saturating the physical material with a very specific, tangible, spiritual energy.
It reminds me of when I was setting up for my set the other night. If I just walk on stage with a mic, it's a mic. But if I spend the whole night building the specific tension, the mic becomes part of the vibe, you know?
Paco, your vibe is usually just loud feedback.
Hey, that was a sonic manifestation.
But seriously, look at his metaphor for the tool. He uses a hammer. He says if you buy a hammer, believe it's a hammer, and imagine the houses you'll build, but you never actually hit a nail. It's just a piece of iron on a stick.
That's the architect angle right there. The tool only becomes a tool when it's used for its purpose. This echoes his earlier point about subjective synthesis. You can't just read the manual. You have to inhabit the function of the object.
It's so visceral. He describes this process of the invocation of omnipotence. He tells you to stand at the altar, palms down, and feel this electrical discharge. He says you should feel your very muscles and flesh dissecting or layering as this unearthly force passes through you.
It sounds exhausting. He's describing a complete physiological overload. He's basically saying you need to turn your body into a fountain of power.
But look at the instruction for the altar. He tells you to visualize the life from your hands, infusing the stone or wood, making the molecules vibrate. He says the goal is for the object to become more than just a physical object, but also not purely spiritual. It's the union of the high and the low.
I love that part. The idea that the object becomes a foundation upon which my own universe arises. It's so much more expansive than just blessing a table.
But here's the kicker, the part where he gets really black magic with it. He says when you draw the triangle for the spirit to appear, you shouldn't just draw lines. You have to visualize them as lines of fire.
And then he tells you how to set the vibe for the entity itself using the direction of your movement.
Yeah, if you want an angel or something altruistic, you trace the circle clockwise. But if you want the demonic male or destructive types, you go counterclockwise. You're literally drawing an astral perimeter of blue fire.
It's a stark distinction. It brings us back to his claim that the practitioner's level of expectation and authority is what dictates reality. You aren't just drawing a circle, you are defining the boundaries of what is allowed to exist within that space.
It's heavy. He's moving from the internal, the energy in your own chest, to this massive external flaming geometry.
It's all very command and control. He's building a prison of light and fire and then inviting a demon to sit in the middle of it. I just wonder, if the tools are so saturated with your power, what happens when you're done?
Well, he does say the power stays in the tools long after they crumble to dust. But that's a conversation for the next chunk. Okay, let's get into the actual sequence. He's moving from the setup to the moment of seeing. He tells the practitioner to look at the tools, the altar, the bowl, the dagger in the hold, how they shine with the life you've given them.
It's so intensely focused on that feedback loop. You aren't just using a bowl. You're looking at it and seeing the glow of life that you provided. It's like he's saying, don't just pray to a dead object, witness your own impact on the material world.
Yeah, until you realize he wants you to feel like a million suns are exploding inside your chest. I mean, I like a bit of drama, but it's a lot of pressure on the plummet.
It's more than drama, Paco. Look at the mechanics. He has you take the chalice in your left hand, hold it, and then, and this is the part that always gets me, he tells you to gather all this almighty power in your torso and then push it through your fingers into the wine.
He actually describes it as this physical sensation of the power threatening to tear the flesh and bursting through the fingers like a river into the bowl.
That sounds terrifying. Like you're literally trying to channel a flood through your fingertips.
It's classic architect stuff. He's trying to bridge the gap between a metaphor and a physical sensation. He wants you to feel the heat, the weight, the actual pressure of the energy. And then once the wine is charged, you say this whole thing about it being the elixir of immortality and God's blood that cleanses the soul.
Wait, God's blood? That's a pretty heavy way to describe a glass of Cabernet.
It's heavy, but look at the reason he's doing it. He explicitly says the primary function is to charge the tools, but the secondary hidden function, and this is the core of our whole episode, is to achieve a state of omnipotence.
Right. He says it in this brief window. While you're drawing the flames and charging the liquid, you aren't just a person anymore. You stop being this human being full of doubts, and you stand before the altar as a deity.
See, that's where I start to get skeptical. He's talking about this massive psychological shift, but he's doing it through very specific, almost scripted physical actions. He's trying to bypass the ego by overwhelming the senses.
But look at how he handles the command part. This is the most interesting part of the whole passage to me. He says most beginners fail because they try to command the spirit directly. They think, hey demon, show up. And he says, no, don't be a dilettante.
Yeah, he's calling them limiters. He says a spirit might refuse if you just bark orders at it.
Exactly. He says you should command the universe and the temple to manifest the spirit. You tell the universe, let the spirit be seen by my eyes. Let its power become my power. You're not negotiating with a demon. You're instructing reality to act as the stage for its arrival.
It's a much more stable way of looking at it. It's not a confrontation. It's an architectural instruction. I have built this temple. I have charged this space. Therefore, the entity must appear because the conditions for its existence have been met.
But then he hits you with a physical fallout. He says, look out, you're probably going to feel dizzy, weak, and exhausted.
Oh man, the magical fatigue. I feel it after a long set of stand-up, but he's saying it's actually a good sign.
He insists on it. He says the smuddle fatigue is actually a sign of the approaching materialization. He calls it ecstasy rather than weakness. He's saying your human body is literally buckling under the weight of the unearthly forces trying to enter the room.
It's like the system is overloading the circuit breaker. Your physical body is the breaker, and when it starts to flicker and fail, it means the current is finally flowing.
It sounds like a recipe for a blackout. He literally says you might lose consciousness, and you have to balance on a thin line between losing consciousness and maintaining control.
True. But it brings us back to the whole theme. The architect provides the structure, but the reality that fills it. That's a much more volatile thing than we'd like to admit.
But there's a purpose to the struggle. He ends this section with this intense instruction. Lift the chalice to your forehead, drink the blood of God, and use the smoke of the incense to blur your vision. He tells you to look through the sigil, not at it.
To find the connection between your mind and the spirit's mind, which is already there, waiting to be called.
It's a beautiful, terrifying loop. You build the stage, you charge the tools, you transform yourself into a god, and then you sit in the dark, staring through a piece of paper, waiting for a shadow to move.
And the most haunting part? He says that before anything can actually succeed, it must first arise in the mind. The architecture is all there. We're just waiting for the inhabitant to move in. Okay, we are moving into the most critical phase, the transition from the setup to the actual event. He's talking about the moment you stop looking at the paper and start looking through it.
And he's so specific about the mental state here. He says you have to take that goal, the reason you're even doing this, and turn it into a clear, unified visual image. A single cohesive picture instead of a random list of wishes.
Good luck with that. Most people can't even focus on a grocery list for 10 minutes without checking their phone.
But look at what he says happens once you achieve that focus. He says the transfer of energy from your mind into the sigil must become automatic. You aren't pushing the energy. You're just letting it leak out.
And then, wait. This is wild, he says. The first sign that you've actually made a connection is that the sigil starts to disappear.
What? Like the ink just evaporates?
No, not the ink. He says parts of the lines, or even the outer circle, will vanish from your field of vision and then reappear a few seconds later. But when they come back, they don't look like they're drawn on the paper anymore. They look like they're hovering in the air above it.
That is a massive red flag for me. That sounds like a classic optical illusion. Your eyes are tired. You're staring at a single point and your brain starts playing tricks with light and shadow.
But he anticipates that. He says you must not focus your eyes on the part that disappeared. You have to keep a diffuse gaze on the whole sigil. He claims that if you follow this, the rest of the lines will undergo the same metamorphosis, vibrating with life.
So it's like the paper is turning into a 3D hologram. That would be a hell of a way to start a magic show.
He's describing a total shift in the environment. He says for those with a natural gift, they might hear a voice or see the room change, getting darker or warmer, or even a different color.
And then we get to the part where he says, don't get cocky. He warns that even if you see these things, you shouldn't assume the spirit is fully here. You can't claim victory until you see it in the triangle and hear its voice in the temple.
It's like he's setting a trap for your own ego. Don't think it's done until it's done.
Speaking of things being done, I think we need to talk about the Wisconsin incident. This is where the book gets very unfiltered.
Oh man, this is the part where the architect meets a very angry neighbor.
He's in this house in Wisconsin 2002, trying to teach a student. He's got his temple set up upstairs. He's doing the whole ritual, the incense, the sigil, the big heavy incantations. Everything is going according to plan.
Until the wife downstairs starts screaming.
Exactly. He describes it perfectly. He's trying to be quiet, but suddenly he hears this woman screaming. Damn it, stop it, from the floor below.
And it's not even a sply scream. It's a you're ruining my sleep scream.
She's literally coming up the stairs, pounding on the door, face all red, yelling at him because he's thumping on the floor and turning on all the lights.
And the funniest part is that he's sitting there completely stunned because he knows he wasn't making any noise. He was being as careful as possible.
This is the crux of the debate he's highlighting. He's presenting two camps of modern occultists. One side says, look, the spirit is just communicating through your imagination. It's all psychological.
And the other side says, no, the spirit is actually manifesting, and it's causing physical chaos, loud bangs, flashes of light, things breaking.
And Koetting is basically saying, well, I was in that house and I didn't hear any banging. I just heard a very annoyed woman.
Which honestly sounds much more realistic.
But look at his conclusion. He says that because of that incident, he moved his temple to a cave in a mountainside. He says now when he performs an evocation, the wind might howl or thunder might roll, but he only sees the spirit. No more angry neighbors.
He's saying the materialization is real, but the side effects are what people get wrong. He's trying to separate the actual presence of the entity from the Hollywood version of explosions and chaos.
I don't know. If I were the student in that house and I saw the walls vibrating while the teacher was yelling at a lady about her sleep schedule, I'd probably be running for the hills.
True, but it brings us back to the whole theme. The architect provides the structure, but the reality that fills it. That's a much more volatile thing than we'd like to admit. Let's take a breather before we dive too deep into the structural chaos.
Good idea, because your structural lecture was starting to sound suspiciously like a textbook professor.
Oh, is that right? And I suppose your spontaneous method is just waiting for a cosmic punchline?